Let's keep on working with two-step equations. Solve each equation, check your solution. And number 1, we have 3 parentheses x plus 5 equals 39. You know that 3 and the parentheses are multiplying, meaning 3 multiplies the group x plus 5. So first of all, we need to get rid of the 3. Since it's multiplied, we're going to divide by 3. Both sides divide by 3. And this goes away. And I end up having the parentheses x plus 5 equals 39 divided by 3, that is 13. Now I have x plus 5 equals 13. I have to get rid of the 5 by subtracting 5. And when I subtract, this goes away, and my x equals 13 minus 5, that is 8. My x equals 8 for this equation. Number 2, very similar. We have a multiplication of 7 times a group, that is the parentheses x plus 8. So first of all, we're going to get rid of the 7 by divided by 7. Both sides divide by 7. This 7 is going to go away. And I have the parentheses x plus 8 equals 49 divided by 7. That is 7. So I have x plus 8 equals 7. Now let's get rid of the 8 by subtracting 8 both sides. This goes away, and x equals 7 minus 8 is negative 1. X is negative 1 in this case. And number 3, we're going to do the similar thing by dividing by negative 5, because negative 5 is multiplying the parentheses. We're going to divide by negative 5 here and divide by negative 5 here. We do the line, and then this goes away, and I have as leftovers x minus 6 equals 15 divided by 5 is 3, but since I have the negative, it's negative 3. So I have this new equation here. The only thing I need to do now is get rid of the negative 6 by adding 6 both sides. And finally I have, this goes away, x equals negative 3 minus 6 is negative 9. I'm sorry, I'm adding 6, so 6 minus 3 is 3, positive 3. Very good. Now in number 4, I have 10 multiplying the parentheses, so we have to do the same thing. We have to divide by 10, so we get rid of the 10. And divide by 10 here. So the 10 go away, and I have leftovers x minus 5 equals negative 80 over 10 is negative 8. Now in this case, I'm going to get rid of the negative 5 by adding 5 both sides. Okay. And this goes away, and I have leftover x equals negative 8 plus 5 is negative 3. X equals negative 3 for this equation number 4. In number 5, I have 4 times the group x plus 9 equals 20. So I'm going to get rid of the 4. Since 4 multiplies the group or the parentheses, I divide by 4. Divide by 4 both sides. What happens now? Cancel 4 with 4, and x plus 9 equals 20 divided by 4, that is 5. In this new equation, I'm going to get rid of the 9 by subtracting 9 both sides. Then I have x as leftover equals 5 minus 9 is negative 4. In number 6, I have 6 multiplying the parentheses equals negative 42. What I'm going to do here is going to divide by 6, divide by 6, and this goes away, and I have leftover x plus 12 equals 42 divided by 6 is 7. Since the negative is here, it's negative 7. So I have a new equation here. X plus 12 equals negative 7. I'm going to get rid of the 12 now. 12 is adding to x, so I'm going to subtract 12. subtract 12 both sides. The 12 cancel now when I add, and I have a leftover x equals -7, and -12 is -19 for number 6. In page 95, solve each equation, check your solution. I have this one 3 times a parenthesis, x plus 5 equals 18. So I have to get rid of the 3 first. How do I do that? Since the 3 is multiplying the parenthesis, I'm going to do the opposite operation to undo the multiplication. That means divide by 3 both sides. That makes the 3 cancel, and I have a leftover x plus 5 equals 18 divided by 3. 3 times 6 is 18, so this is going to be 6. Now I have a new equation, x plus 5 equals 6, and I'm going to get rid of the 5. The 5 is adding, so I subtract 5 both sides. And now when I add 5 minus 5, 0, I have a leftover of x equals 6 minus 5 is 1, and x is going to be 1. And number 2 is very similar for multiplying the parentheses, and I'm going to divide by 4 both sides. This cancels out, and this is x plus 8 equals 44 divided by 4 is 11. X plus 4 equals 11, so I'm going to subtract now the 8 because the 8 is adding to x. I undo the operation by subtracting 8 in both sides. 8 goes away, x equals 3. Let's do this equation. Write an equation to represent each situation, then solve the equation. School. Half of the students in Mac's class volunteer at the local community center. 15 students do not volunteer. If there are 12 boys in Mac's class, how many girls are in the class? Well, you may think that this question does nothing to do with the first part of the problem, but let's try to analyze part by part and see what we have. Half of the students in Mac's class volunteer. Half of the students is Mac's class. Do you know how many students we have in Mac's class? No, we don't, so we're going to write it as a variable. So let's put students in Mac's class, or total students. Total of number of students in Mac's class, I'm going to put it as a variable s. Okay? Now, what it says there, that half of the students volunteer. So, volunteer, 1/2 of the total students in my class, 1/2 of s, volunteer. So I'm going to write 1/2 of s, okay, they volunteer. I'm going to write here volunteer. Okay? Very good. 15 students do not volunteer. So 15 students do not volunteer. Okay? So we have the ones who volunteer and the ones who don't volunteer in the class. So what happens? The ones who volunteer plus the ones who don't volunteer then gives me the total numbers of students in the class. So we can assemble an equation here. Look at that. The 1/2 of the total of the class don't volunteer plus the ones who volunteer, they are 15, equals the total number of students in the class. Let's put with red my variable. Total students in the class are the ones who volunteer, 15, and the ones who don't volunteer, half of the class. Okay? So we have a small equation here. Let's try now to find out the total number of students we have in the class. Because if we know that total number and we subtract 12 boys, then we're going to have the girls that we have in the class. So let's work a little bit with this equation here. Let's find s. But notice that s is in both sides of the equation. So I'm going to bring my s to one side. Meaning I'm going to subtract here. Since half s is adding, I'm going to subtract from both sides. Minus 1/2 of s, minus 1/2 of s. Why? Because this is going to go away. This S goes away from here, and now I have 15 in the left side as leftover. 15 equals S minus 1/2 of S. Okay, so how much is S minus half of S? Meaning 1 minus 1/2 of S. 1 apple minus half apples is half apples. So 15 is going to be 1/2 of S. Very good. Let's put it in red so we can see that this is the variable we're going to find. Now, in order to find S, the total number of students in the class, I need to get rid of the 1/2. For that, I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. 2 over 1. Just flip over this one and 2 over 1 and multiply both sides. So this 2 goes away with this one, the 1 with this one, and I have on the right side S equal 2 times 15 over 1. That means 30. Oh, look at that. I have 30 total of 30 students in the class. If 12 of them are boys, I'm going to subtract the girls, the number of girls, G, is going to be 30 minus 12. So 30 minus 12 is going to be 18 girls. So in my class I have 18 girls total.